Something's not right here. I can feel it. The air around me is thick with all the uncertainty. It's suffocating me, ripping the breath from my lungs. Perhaps I'm overreacting. That's what I've been told. Maybe my personal biases and hindsight make me see what isn't there. Or not seeing what is. I don't. All I know is that I feel like I've just been handed a crappy cheese, lettuce, and tomato sandwich and told it's a quarter-pound cheeseburger. Isn't that a good hamburger, Paul? No, asshole, it's crap. With me in this crowded restaurant are my wife and her best friend. As usual, they're sharing secrets they don't tell me. The hard-to-see glances they cast at each other when they think I can't see tell a story their mouths aren't telling. As annoying as it is, it happens a lot. But somehow today feels different. Something else is in the air. I don't know why I have this feeling, but there it is. They've known each other since they were kids. Best friends since junior high school. They joined the cheerleading squad at the same time and have been inseparable ever since. Even after they graduated high school and went each to their own colleges, they remained close. Their relationship has always annoyed me. I know it's irrational. I was never going to prescribe to my wife who she can and cannot be friends with. I don't own her. We are partners, not master and slave. But still, she chose me, for better or worse. Until death do us part. We are joined for life. If there's some aspect of their friendship that I'm not happy with, it needs to be addressed somehow, not swept under the rug. But that's exactly what she's doing. She says I'm making a big deal out of it, overreacting. Her family tells me the same thing. Paul, you have to understand. They tell me he's like a brother to Cece. Yeah, you heard me right. Like a brother. I mean, her best friend is a man. Of course, you're probably going to say what everyone else is probably going to say. They look at the fact that he was a cheerleader and assume he's gay and that I have nothing to worry about. Wrong. Gary, her best friend, is 100% straight. In high school, he had more cheerleaders than he did quarterbacks. He has seen them all naked at one time or another. He was always at the bottom of the pyramid, which meant he spent most of his time looking at their asses and grabbing them. He had to make sure he grabbed them right so they wouldn't fall over. If that meant he had to hold on especially tightly to a soft pair of buttocks, by golly, that's exactly what he had to do. My wife thought it was hilarious. The fact that he used his knowledge of the women on the team to hook up with most of the girls at school, between the two of them, it's like a walking joke. She tells him how disgusting he is and giggles uncontrollably the whole time. I know most of you are ready to ask the million-dollar question. I can already hear it. I've asked myself that question hundreds of times, and I'll give you the same answer I give myself. No. According to them, Gary and my wife never made it to the end. But doesn't that raise a bunch of other questions, like, what the hell does that mean? What is to the end? If they didn't reach the end, how far away is that end? Isn't that what sows doubt? Not to the end means that that thing did happen. Asking these questions makes me look like an insecure ass. People look at me with a really dude, look and shake their heads. I've never gotten a straight answer, at least not one that completely satisfied me. It's always been a point of contention between us. I love CC, I trust her, but there is always that nagging feeling of insecurity. She tries to make me forget about it, always dragging me out on dates with Gary and his wife. Oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention that. He's married. Yet another reason why I should chill out. Anyway, Sierra, CC, has always tried to bridge that gap between Gary and me. I know she wants us to be friends, and honestly, I could see that Gary was trying too. So I let my guard down and relaxed a little. The problem is, we have nothing in common. He doesn't watch sports, doesn't work with his hands, and never wants to do anything that would make him sweat. My hobbies, on the other hand, include going to the gym, working on my car, and bowling. He likes dancing, roller skating, and window shopping. I know, sounds gay. I see he fooled you too. No matter how hard I try, I just can't get close to Gary. He and I realized that a while ago, and we stopped trying. We are cordial with each other, but neither of us likes being dragged out and forced to hang out with each other for my wife. We just don't have the guts to tell her that. So whenever I can, I find reasons why I can't hang out with the four of them. CC's usually disappointed when I get bored, but after a while, it became the new normal. Over the years, she still invited me to come over and let me know I was welcome, but didn't really expect me to show up. Today, when she invited me to have lunch with Gary and his wife, I decided to go hang out with them. When I agreed, she seemed pleasantly surprised, but also seemed a little nervous. When we arrived at the restaurant, we were there before Gary and his wife, so we took a booth for 4. About 10 minutes later, Gary showed up, without his wife. He walked up to the booth with a big smile on his face. When he saw me, his smile became less genuine and more strained. I sensed a change in temperature. Cece also seemed more anxious than usual. She talked a lot, but nothing worthwhile. It seemed more like an attempt to cover up an awkward silence rather than a smooth conversation. I, on the other hand, was put on high alert by this unpleasant atmosphere. My senses were heightened. I was acutely aware of everything, including the furtive glances they threw at each other. There was something else there. When we left the restaurant, I couldn't focus. As we walked to the car, my thoughts scattered in different directions. Cece was still very talkative, all the while not saying anything of substance. It was just getting annoying. "What's going on between you and Gary?" I suddenly asked, interrupting her meaningless sea of useless words. She stopped and looked at me with her mouth open in surprise. "I realize you guys are mad at me at this point. I broke rule number 1. I suspected my wife of cheating on me. At this point, I should have pretended everything was fine, secretly made contact with a private investigator, and then, while he was watching my wife, I should have maintained her false sense of security so that she would let her guard down and make a mistake. Fuck that shit." "Paul, what are you talking about?" she asked me. I have to admit, she did look genuinely confused. "I'm talking about you and Gary. What's going on?" "Paul, you're not making any sense." "Okay," I said, stopping. "Let me ask you a simpler question. Are you sleeping with him?" "What?" she gasped, completely shocked. "Sleeping with Gary? Are you out of your mind?" I admit it. Her absolute shock at the thought of her with Gary actually calmed me down. A little bit. But I know I'm not imagining things. "If you're not fucking Gary, then fine. But something's going on. I need you to be straight with me and tell me what the hell it is." Cece shakes her head and walks forward. I step faster to catch up with her. When I level with her, she says, "I can't tell you, Paul. Don't ask." "Just wait a minute. Do you have something you can't tell me? Your husband. But you have no problem telling Gary." "Paul." She's whining like she's begging me to stop talking. "No, don't flatter me. Answer me. You can tell Gary, but not me, right?" "You don't understand, sweetheart," she said cryptically, gently grabbing my hand. "It's a tactic she uses when she wants me to calm down." I shook my hand, freeing myself, waiting for her to elaborate, but she doesn't. "Kira, you better tell me something," I say firmly. She looks at me wide-eyed, as she always does when I call her by her full name. Then her face looks defeated as she exhales irritably, quietly. "Paul, this is not my secret. I still don't give her space, and she finally gives in. Gary is cheating on his wife." "What?" "Yeah," she says, nodding. "He told me not to tell anyone, not even you." I almost sigh in relief. But then my mind starts spinning with other thoughts. "So he's cheating on his wife, and you're helping him cover it up? Is that true?" She nods again. "But you don't have to tell him anything. I promised I wouldn't tell you." By this time, we're standing by the car, so I unlock and open the door to let her inside. When she gets in, I walk around to the other side of the car and get in. "Promise me, Paul. Promise me you won't say anything." I don't answer her, starting the car. After I pull into the driveway, she once again begs me not to say anything. Honestly, I didn't care about Gary cheating on his wife. That's his business. If he wants to give up on his marriage, to hell with them. What bothers me is the fact that my wife not only knows about it, but is helping him. "So he's cheating and you're helping him?" I repeat, carefully emphasizing the words I want her to pay attention to. Now I guess she realizes the meaning of what I'm saying and starts to back off. "Well, it's not like I'm helping him with this. I'm just here to talk to him, that's all." "About the affair?" "Everything. Including cheating on his wife, right?" I can see her growing increasingly annoyed at the continuous loop this conversation is going through. Me too. I think I'm more entitled to it. I'm the only one in the dark here. The only reason for this loop is because she wants to play word games instead of just telling me the truth. "Paul, why are you questioning me? I'm not the one cheating, am I?" See, there she is. Another ploy to confuse me. She didn't even answer the question. She can't say, "Yes, I'm helping my best friend cheat on his wife." Instead, she has to try to fool me and make me out to be some crazy bastard who always overreacts. Heck, I'm not exaggerating. I've pretty much decided to let it go. The escalation alone makes it all not worth it. But I refuse to get out of the way of her word games. It's a common tactic of hers. It's actually quite effective. But not tonight. Today she can't refuse me. I quickly touch the car and squeal into the makeshift parking lot. Then I put the car in park and turn off the engine. "Paul, what the hell?" "Cece, I'm not playing with you. Give me some straight answers. We're not moving until you do." "What the hell is wrong with you?" she yells at me. I take the keys out of the ignition and put them in my pocket. A useless gesture, I know, but it makes my point perfectly clear. She sits up and stares at me, not believing her eyes, while the seconds tick away. "Jesus, you're an asshole!" she finally shouts, crossing her arms over her chest and pouting her lips. I sit silently in place, waiting. I'm not going to let her distract me from this conversation with any more confusing answers to my questions. I lean back and rest my head on the headrest. Great! He's cheating on Cynthia with someone from his office. He tells me he feels bad but can't stop. This new woman makes him feel alive. She listens to him and understands him in a way that Cynthia just can't understand. Are you happy now? Well, where do you come in? You're giving him an alibi? Are you sitting there listening to a report on his sexual gymnastics? What are you doing for him to come talk to you about it? I'm just here to listen to Paul, that's all. You should try it sometime. I think about it for a few minutes. Then with a nod, I start the engine again and drive off. Do you think what he's doing is wrong? I ask after a minute of silent driving. I guess, but I don't blame him for it. So you don't tell him to talk to his wife? You don't tell him it's wrong to cheat on her? You just sit there and giggle with him about all the nasty things he's doing with this other woman. Am I right? She just shakes her head. See? This is why I didn't want to tell you. You're so quick to judge people. Really? Telling your best friend that he's wrong to cheat on his wife is judgmental? She lets out a groan that is pure annoyance. That's not what this is about. It's your attitude. You're so sanctimonious. You already don't like Gary, so why would I tell you something that would make you dislike him even more? You won't even try to understand where this is coming from. Where did it come from? He's cheating on his wife. Who the hell cares where Mr. Cheerleader came from? I'm yelling. How the hell does she not see that? All she does is snort, shake her head, and stare out the window. We don't say another word the rest of the way home. At the end of the day, the air in my house is cold, and I'm not talking about the air conditioning. Cece walks around, deliberately ignoring me. It's highly annoying, and I, in turn, don't try to get her attention. Fortunately for me, it's Sunday. Sunday is soccer. It allows me to not even worry about her being cold to me. Later in bed, she continues to protest. When she comes out of the bathroom after her shower, she's wearing a baggy t-shirt that says, "Fuck you, not sex," and sweatpants that say, "Don't even think about it." When she gets into bed, she turns so that she's facing me. For a minute or so, we lie in dark silence. Each of us tries to outsmart the other. Finally, I have had enough. I have to bring up the question that has been bugging me all day. "CCC, what if you were cheated on by me?" Before I can finish, she instantly turns to face me. The movement is so quick, so sudden, it pulls the blanket off me. Her face is a mask of anger. "If you were cheated on by me," I continue, "wouldn't you want Mike, my best friend, to be as cavalier as you are? Wouldn't you want him to tell me how wrong it was? Or wouldn't you want him to sit quietly and tell me different stories?" I see her eyes begin to fill with tears, but she doesn't soften. "That's not what I do, Paul. I told you. I'm just listening. He's my best friend. I'm not going to judge him, just like Mike wouldn't judge you. Besides, I hope Mike at least tries to find out why you feel the need to cheat. That's what I'd like to know. Why? I'd like to know what it is that you're not happy with me about so I can fix it. Wouldn't you like to know that?" I guess I would. I soften. Finally, I give up. I have to accept the fact that we won't look each other in the eye. Besides, I'm not going to let Gary's infidelity get in the way of my wife and me. It's already cost us one day together. We could have spent today having fun. Instead, I watched all the games I could find, and she did whatever she wanted. Now I'm not having any sex. Look, Cece, I'm sorry, okay? I still think it sucks. And I don't like that you seem okay with your best friend cheating, but I'm not going to hold you accountable for it. Can we please put an end to this Cold War? Her eyes glisten with tears and she nods. Okay, I'm sorry. You're right. We shouldn't be fighting. She moves closer to my side of the bed and wraps her arms around me. We kiss with a deep, passionate kiss. That kiss was both a white flag of surrender and an apology. It was also imbued with a promise of love and understanding. Even though we had argued and disagreed with each other, we were still lovers and spouses. I love you, Cece, I say while my hands find the waistband of her sweatpants. She doesn't stop me from slowly pulling them down. She even lifts her hips to help me. I love you too, Paul, she says as I pull her pants off. Her eyes are full of fresh tears. Don't ever forget that, do you hear me? I hear you. I hear you. We're making sweet love. It's one of those great sessions. Married people know what I'm talking about. Every once in a while, you and your wife have that intense, energetic sex. The kind of sex where you just can't get enough of each other. I love my wife, and I won't let Gary or anyone else get in my way. The next day, I walk through the door and kiss my wife before heading to the bedroom to remove my work casual clothes. While there, I see her cell phone light up on the nightstand, starting to vibrate. I didn't pay attention to it at first, but then curiosity took over. My wife's phone is locked, but she has it set up so that when she gets a message, it shows up on the screen. She can't reply to it until she unlocks the phone, but she can read it. So I can too. What I read stunned me at first. However, the pieces began to fall into place and make a lot more sense. When full realization came, I was furious, a boiling fury of magma. The message was from Gary, and it said, "Glad your affair is finally over. It was so not good. Your husband is a great guy. He doesn't deserve this. Besides, you know I can't keep a secret. What the fuck? Ciara!" "33-year-old Louis Anacortes sat on a freshly finished and washed marine teak and iron bench overlooking Riffy Lake. In happier times, during countless visits here, he and his family had sailed on the lake. He studied the freshly polished brass plaque on the bench. Donated by the Edmonds family of Mossy Rock in memory of our beloved grandfather, Kennewick Edmonds. This bench is for all to enjoy so they can enjoy the beauty of the area he loved so much. Louis, as a native of these parts, upon reading the inscription, laughed short, sharp, and bitterly. He knew why old Kennewick loved the area, and in particular this lookout where a bench had been strategically placed in his honor. From this spot, Kennewick often rested and gazed longingly at the crystal blue water that flooded his childhood home decades ago when Tacoma City Light built the Mossy Rock Dam to generate electricity for the city. Louis knew the town of Riffa was out there somewhere, but it lay 60 feet below the shimmering surface of the lake, which now reflected a gorgeous blue sky and jagged clouds. A variety of native pines grow beneath the forest canopy surrounding the lake. Some of the western whites and ponderosas towered more than 36 feet into the sky. As a child, Louis had always dreamed of climbing to the top of one of them to see if he could touch the vast sky. He had a cherished memory of his late father. Once, when he was a young boy, he and his father had lain on their backs on the shore of a lake and rested. Their antique bamboo fishing rods by H.L. Leonard were leaned against a tree. Those were tuned to the salmon that thrived in these waters. They gazed skyward, admiring nature's amazing work, and at the same time rested. He told his father about his desire to climb to the top of one of the pine trees. His father was silent for several minutes and did not even pay attention to Lewis's statement. Just when Lewis thought his father must have let his words pass his ears, he began humming a line from Jimi Hendrix's song, Purple Haze. Forgive me while I kiss the sky. His father was a terrible singer. He couldn't get the melody out even to save his own life, but it never stopped him from singing. When his father's voice would repeat that line, the teenage Lewis would look around embarrassed, praying that no one would witness his singing. In adulthood, however, the incident is pleasantly and indelibly etched in his memory. Lewis lost both of his parents to cancer when he was very young. This fact, as well as his understanding of genetics, was one of the reasons this encounter happened. Life is too short. Lewis's attention was now drawn to the lake itself. Nearly 23 miles long, it was so deep that no light could shine through the darkness that enveloped the once vibrant, close-knit community of Riff. The darkness hid all evidence that it had ever existed, because it would never again be seen in the light. Lewis thought it an apt metaphor for his marriage. To any passerby unfamiliar with the nightmare in which Lewis had recently lived, it might have appeared to be serenely absorbing the secluded beauty of the warm fall weather that occasionally visited the Pacific Northwest. Locals still refer to this phenomenon, despite its current political incorrectness, as Indian summer. Indian summer. When it comes, there is no finer time or place on Earth. It almost makes 9 long months of dreary rain seem bearable. Although outwardly Lewis looked calm, inside he was seething. He had to endure this nightmare alone. He was an only child, and he didn't have many friends outside of the fire station. None of the guys at the station could talk to Lewis about his problems because, unlike how they are portrayed on TV, firefighters don't spend all their free time talking about their fears and emotions, sharing intimate moments with their fellow firefighters. No one dares to show weakness in front of others for fear they will lose trust in them. Their lives depend on each other, and even a moment's hesitation, caused by the uncertainty that they could trust someone to do the right thing in extreme circumstances, could prove fatal. No, in this, Lewis was utterly alone. He had purposely arrived early because, truth be told, he was counting on the healing power of his favorite lake and the magical natural oil of nature to help him survive this meeting his soon-to-be ex-wife had requested. She actually requested it, and his lawyer said it would be in his best interest to grant the request. It would look good in family court, his lawyer admonished him. In addition, his lawyer was becoming increasingly frustrated with Blaine's constant obstruction to delay the inevitable. Lewis couldn't understand why Blaine kept insisting that their marriage could survive her insanity. She wants her attorney to demand mandatory counseling. It doesn't matter to her that in the state of Washington, a family court judge can't schedule it. Both attorneys tried until they were blue in the face to talk to Blaine, but to no avail. Lewis felt that Blaine definitely needed some kind of therapy, but that was no longer his concern. Oh well, he sighed, thinking to himself, it's going to end today anyway. Blaine could have demanded an appointment, but Lewis insisted on the spot. He knew that the summer crowds would already be a distant memory, so the place would likely be given to them alone. This meeting would not go the way Blaine expected. He cast a brief glance at his watch. She should arrive in a few minutes, but he knew he actually had plenty of time. For one thing, Blaine would have to drive Highway 12 a considerable distance, something she couldn't stand. She'd never been on time for anything, including their wedding. For that one, she was an hour late. He let out the same cynical chuckle when the quick memory of that came to him. Thought he'd rather have left the church after being 20 minutes late, as his best man had jokingly suggested over 13 years ago, but quickly dismissed the thought. The truth was that the first 12.5 years of his marriage to Blaine had been a perfect dream. Lewis loved his 2 daughters, Rainier and Lacey, more than life. Rain, as she was called, was a daddy's girl to the core. She was already in school and preparing to become a firefighter, just like her idolized father. Lacey, on the other hand, was his wife's mini-me. For Lewis, this proved to be just one of many complications. Family courts don't like to separate children. That and the fact that in Washington state, family law does not set an age for a child under 18 to choose which parent to live with in a divorce. However, according to the attorney, not all is lost. Despite the complexity, Washington divorce and child custody law allows a husband and wife to jointly submit a child care plan to the court. If the judge finds that the plan is detailed, complete, and financially fair for the children, he or she will usually sign it without modification. The trick, his lawyer told him, was to get the wife to agree to a very difficult proposal that Lewis wanted his wife to accept. Lewis was a realist. Even before the lawyer confirmed it to him, he realized that his job as a firefighter with the Riverside Fire Department, known as RFA, would almost certainly not allow him to get primary custody of his daughters. The dangerous nature of the job and the shift work schedule were almost insurmountable obstacles to considering custody. It took time and money, a lot of money, to devise the plan he had set in motion. He closed his eyes and mentally went back to that horrible day a few months ago when his nightmarish existence began. He had no way of deciding if his current life was an episode of The Twilight Zone or the movie Groundhog Day. His reality is both surreal and horrifyingly repetitive. "Lewis, honey, can we talk in the living room? Please." He had just completed his pleasant nightly ritual of putting the girls to bed in their shared bedroom when he heard her voice. Although he needed sleep because his next 24-hour shift was starting tomorrow morning, he couldn't wait to talk to his wife. He hoped Blaine wanted to continue discussing their shared desire to buy their own house. The four of them were living in a rented 3-bedroom apartment and really wanted to buy their own home permanently now that their careers were secured. Both agreed that it is much better to raise their daughters in their own home. It's more permanent. On his way to the living room, he stopped by the kitchen and grabbed a bottle of water from the refrigerator. He lowered himself onto the worn couch they'd inherited from his parents and turned to Blaine, swinging his right leg over his left so that he was facing her. For a moment, he ruffled Blaine's loose blonde hair that always covered her ear, then tucked it gently behind her ear flap and dropped his hand to her shoulder. "What's up, sweetheart?" He didn't remember much after that. His memories of their conversation were mostly fragmentary, soul-piercing stabs to the heart in a kaleidoscope of shock, disbelief, and anger. His reaction, however, was crystal clear. Months later, he was still confused by how shockingly weak and emotional his reaction was. He had cried, really cried in front of her. It was so pathetic that he could feel the pity on Blaine's part. Stumbling, he walked out of the house and walked away from the source of his torment. One good thing about being a firefighter was that there was always a spare bunk to sleep on. No one ever questioned his constant presence. Everyone knew the divorce statistics on the job. After a few days, he was able to piece together what his wife had told him. She didn't ask permission, just told him what she was going to do. When he finally got home, he was going to beg his wife not to destroy their family, was going to beg her to go to counseling with him to see how their marriage could be saved. But no sooner had he started than he was immediately ambushed by his loving and innocent daughters. Blaine had promised him that they would come to meet him at her parents' house. He turned and looked at his wife standing there with a sly, victorious grin on her face. The love he had once felt for her was long gone. It had now been replaced by a burning hatred. He glared at Blaine, his normally calm face contorted with a rage bordering on murder. For a moment, her look of superiority wiped away and was replaced by fear. But it was at that very moment that his girls began to attack him. In their blissful ignorance, they begged for an explanation as to why he was abandoning them. He had to literally pull himself out of Rain and Lacey's desperate embrace as they begged, screamed, and cried. Rain had the hardest time. "Daddy, how can I be a firefighter without you?" He knew that scene would play over and over in his head until the day he died, regardless of the outcome. Lewis, however, knew that the alternative for his ladies would be worse in the long run. In the end, he was grateful to Blaine. In an instant, he had gone from a weak victim to a man whose path was clear. In an instant, Lewis mentally thanked her. He had regained his dignity and taken the first step toward recovery. Today, he thanked her. "I know it's hard for you girls, and I hope one day you'll understand me. It's just that your mom and I are estranged. We want different things out of life. But I promise you that I will never leave you. I'll see you often and love you forever." He never once looked back at Blaine. When finally freed from the clutches of his girls, he walked purposefully out of his apartment for the last time. From that day forward, Lewis hadn't said a word to his soon-to-be ex-wife, wisely left it to his attorney to speak for himself. Lewis didn't know if he had dozed off or if he was so engrossed in his memories that he had lost track of time. "Hello, Lewis. Thank you for meeting me. Our daughters miss you very much." Her voice, which had once been a reassuring and caring greeting to him, scratched his mind like fingernails on an old chalkboard. He shook his head to clear his thoughts. It was showtime. "Doing this is what my lawyer Blaine told me to do. In a perfect world, I'd never have to look at your ugly face again." He didn't even look in her direction, stared straight at the lake, searching for strength in its quiet familiarity. He heard her shocked. Yes. She'd thought this session would go differently. Lewis smiled involuntarily and looked at her. "I know this is on you, Blaine, but I have to tell you something before you start. This is the last conversation you and I will have on this subject. If you repeat one of those ridiculous reasons you've repeated ad nauseum, that this is supposed to make our marriage stronger, if you tell me one more time how much you love me, if you tell me that it's just my fragile male ego standing in the way, if you even hint that I'm to blame for the breakup of our family, I will get up and walk out of here. At this point, you disgust me so much that I'm physically sickened by your mere presence. Lewis, I don't know." Lewis was sure that Blaine was preparing to repeat his nauseating "but I love you both" speech, and raised his hand to her face. "Let me save you the trouble, Blaine. See this?" He pointed to a large, ubiquitous manila envelope on the bench seat. "Those are the divorce papers that will end our marriage. When you leave here in a few minutes, take them with you. You'll sign them after your attorney has reviewed them. You will return them to my attorney's office within 36 hours. He turned away from her to admire the breathtaking view once more, then continued. "Your attorney will confirm that everything here meets the state's requirements for a parenting plan. But I don't want a cheating wife, so we'll both end up getting a divorce. Now pay attention because this is important." Lewis sighed in frustration, even though deep down he knew Blaine would make things even more complicated than they needed to be. "The parenting plan is what the family court pays the most attention to. What I'm proposing is fair. We don't have a lot of savings, so the rest will be split in half. You'll have custody of the girls." "What? You're not going to fight me on this?" Blaine snorted. "Of course not. The girls need a mother, and despite actually being a shitty wife, you've been a decent mother, so no. And you'll keep the apartment so the girls don't have to change schools or find new girlfriends. I will pay half of the housing costs and pay more than the minimum required child support. I will also have plenty of visits with my girls. It's all spelled out here." At that moment, a myriad of emotions ran through Blaine's mind. She was surprised, delighted, and disappointed all at the same time. She had counted on Lewis's love for his daughters to keep him home and keep their marriage intact. It was at this point that Blaine began to realize exactly what she had lost and began to cry in earnest. "Look, Blaine, the reality is that with my work schedule and the risk from my job, I know I don't stand a chance of getting custody of the girls. Even if you had sex with the entire Seahawks soccer team on the 50-yard line at halftime of a playoff game, it wouldn't change the fact. But Lewis, can't we—" "Don't interrupt, Blaine. We're just getting to the point. You should pay very, very close attention to the next part." He squinted at her impatiently, pulled a thick letter-sized envelope from his pocket and handed it to her. She opened it and began to look through the contents. "As I said, if the divorce papers are not signed and on my attorney's desk exactly as written within 36 hours, everyone in your family, your co-workers, your manager, and everyone else you have ever known will receive a copy of what is inside. This is your copy. It's a detailed account in vivid colors of what you did to end your marriage. And more importantly, a record of what you demanded I accept as part of continuing my marriage to you. It got expensive, but it was worth every penny Lewis spent to get the investigator's report. I will also make sure that my daughters know exactly how and why their family was destroyed." Blaine was clearly shocked by what she saw. She couldn't imagine that this was the truth. No, it had to be a lie. Her lover couldn't be that kind of man. Lewis was lying. Lewis honestly wasn't sure he had the courage to go through with it, as it would hurt his girls too much. But on the other hand, he didn't think he would have to resort to this nuclear option. Besides, it could land him in jail and out of work. He was also really counting on the fact that her lover would turn out to be who Lewis thought he was. And most importantly, Blaine is as servile and gullible as this asshole seems to think she is. The important thing here, Blaine, is that they have to be signed exactly as I suggest. If your lawyer calls mine and says, "my client and I," or if he changes a single comma, period, or semicolon, the gloves will come off and your whole world will know what a piece of shit you are. Blaine, shaken to the core, continued to leaf through the investigator's report. She could only continue to spout nonsensical noises, sniffling and crying throughout Lewis's monologue, just shaking her head in disbelief. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. Why can't Lewis understand? Of course I'm offering a quid pro quo arrangement, so here's what I'm willing to do in exchange for your cooperation. I promise I will never speak ill of you or blame you for the breakup of our family in the eyes of my daughters. I'll even be civil to your boyfriend if we end up together at one of the girls' birthday parties. Hell, I'll even shake his slimy hand if I have to. In every sense, I will act polite and civilized, as if we just decided to part ways amicably. I will do the same with every one of your family and friends. I'll even babysit if you and the Slytherin want to go somewhere last minute for the weekend. In short, I'll be the best ex-husband for any cheating wife. Thanks, Lewis, but this is all so unnecessary. Stop, Blaine. Don't you ever mention that piece of shit's name in my presence. Lewis, he's a good guy. He's not... No, Blaine, he's not. He's... Shit, let's cut to the chase. Whose idea was it to tell me about your relationship? His, Lewis. He said it's not nice to deceive a good man like you. Lewis laughed caustically, interrupting Blaine. Bullshit, Blaine. He did it to guarantee he'd get exactly the same reaction from me as you did. Has he already asked when he can move in with you? Her eyes opened wide at the same time as her mouth. Lewis thought she looked exactly like one of her favorite emojis she liked to use. Blaine was silent. She stared at her hands, which she clenched fiercely. Her posture was so stiff and fragile that it looked as if she was afraid the slightest movement would make her turn into a pillar of dust. That's what I thought, Blaine. It's all in the report you're holding in your hands. Lewis jabbed his fingers at the papers in her hands. You're not his first, and you won't be his last. His record is here. He's not like that. He really loves me. She spoke so quietly that Lewis had to strain to hear her pathetic words. It brought an understanding smile to his face. He exhaled slowly, and a peaceful calm descended on him, as if another breeze from his favorite lake had washed over his face. It was almost over. He knew he had chosen the right path. He knew there were risks, but he had everything under control now. He was confident that everything would fall into place the way he wanted it to. His voice softened considerably. Look at me, Blaine. We're almost done here. It's important that you pay close attention. She raised her eyes to his. Her tear-drenched face was a mask of confusion, ruined mascara, and fear. Her perfect world had been shattered. When she finally looked into Lewis's eyes, she saw a stone, menacing face with eyes black as night, boring into her. Take care of my girls, Blaine. They're our girls, Lewis, she protested weakly. Her shyness made it sound more like a question. No, Blaine, they're not. They're my girls. You betrayed them and threw them away, like you did me, because you're weak and can't keep your legs together. I need you to take care of them for me, just for a couple years. What are you talking about? You could almost smell her fear. I'll never give them up. You already have, you just don't realize it yet. Anyway, your boyfriend will take care of it. He meant what he said. Has he used that phrase with you yet? Baby, just take some of this. It will make our sex so much better. Our lovemaking will be so intense you can't imagine. All your nerve endings will be on fire. Here, just wash it down with a little of this. She looked at her hands again, bashfully. Soon he'll be sharing you with his friends. Come on, baby. Justin's such a nice guy. Don't you want to see what it's like to be loved by more than one man at a time just once? Blaine shook her head slowly, looking into the void, muttering, He wouldn't do that to me. He loves me. Fuck you, Blaine. In a few months, that jerk will be hitting on you at his favorite bars. Lewis was on fire. but the good news is that I have a couple more years before I finish the courses required for a bachelor's degree in fire science. After that, I'll be able to apply for the fire marshal position when Frank retires. Then I will have almost no mandatory hours. That should be about the time you start to crash and burn. That's when I'll sue for full custody. By then, you'll probably be so stoned you won't care. You're wrong. He's not like that at all. Please, Lewis, I really love you. I love our family. Why can't you see? No, you don't see it. Lewis roared at her. You never have. Honestly, I don't think you're capable of loving anyone but yourself. I was just blinded by my love for who I thought you were. I was just a convenient prop for you. The girls just cemented your power over me. When your asshole boyfriend showed up with his magic tool, you played right into his hands. You threw your family away like yesterday's sour milk. Maybe we can start over? She tearfully suggested. No, Blaine, we can't. There's nothing left to start over. Besides, you won't give up on him because then your failure as a wife, mother, and human being will be on display for all to see. No. You will continue to pretend that you and the asshole are happy and in love. You are deliberately going down the path of self-destruction because you have no choice. Because if you did have a choice, deep down you'd have to admit to yourself what an asshole you are. If you dared to self-evaluate, you wouldn't be able to live with what you discovered. Now you have no choice but to live with who you are for the rest of your miserable life. But if I'm wrong, and you both actually love each other, I'm sure it won't be long before your magical businessman starts insinuating that you're being hampered by the need to babysit. He'll probably start with, why don't we just let Lewis take them more often? Something like that. You won't argue with him because you don't want to give up the fantasy sex. That's the same thing you told me when you said I'd have to share you with that parasite. If he finally threatens to leave you after proposing, coaxing, and finally promising he'll leave if you don't give the girls to me, well, then, you'll be back to square one, won't you? He smiled at her confusion. Either way, I win and you lose. It's only a matter of time, and I'm a patient guy. Lewis looked out over the azure surface of the lake again. For a moment, the breeze died down. The water was like glass in a closet door. It was time to leave. He vowed to himself that he would come back here often with his daughters. His girls loved it here, but it wasn't enough. He wanted them to love this place as much as he did. He stood up, but not because he was done with her, but because there was so much adrenaline in his body that his central nervous system wouldn't let him stay still any longer. He needed to discuss one last essential detail with her. Lewis stepped awkwardly around the bench. He placed his hands on the smooth, varnished teak on either side of Blaine's shoulders and gripped it tightly. He slowly leaned over to whisper in her ear. In a quiet voice full of gloating, he said with quiet fury, "Tell your shitty boy that if I get even a hint or even a mere suggestion that he is behaving inappropriately with my daughters, I will kill him. And it doesn't matter what it is. Drugs, sexual innuendo, simple peeping at them in their nightgowns. I'm going to kill him. Tell him he won't have to sneak around or look over his shoulder looking for me, because I'll come at him head on. I want him to realize in his last moment that I'm the one who ended his miserable fucking existence on this earth." "The same goes for you, Blaine." His voice began to shake, his throat sore from the strain. The pressure of his grip intensified as adrenaline kicked in with every word he spat out at her. "You tell him this, Blaine." At the last word, there was a loud crack as the hard wood gave in to Lewis's death grip. Blaine flinched sharply. Lewis looked down curiously at the shattered piece of lattice. It must have been dry rot. For her part, Blaine didn't look at him. She wouldn't stop sobbing and whimpering. Her body shook as if she was suffering from hypothermia. "Remember, Blaine, 36 hours, not 37. And now I'm leaving." He looked at his hands. His nails were broken. His hands bloody and strewn with splinters. That's strange. That didn't hurt at all. For a moment, he stared at Blaine in silence. All he saw was the empty shell of something that had once been human. He cast one last glance at his surroundings, took a deep breath of clean mountain air, then turned and walked away.